Hey, my name is Leanne, and I'm fascinated with helping women navigate how to eat, move, and care for their bodies. This has taken me on a journey from vegan, keto, high protein to everything in between. I'm a small town holistic nutritionist turned 3-time international bestselling author turned functional medicine practitioner, offering telemedicine services around the globe to women looking to better their health and stop second-guessing themselves. I'm here to teach you how to wade through the wellness noise to get to the good stuff that'll help you achieve your goals. Whether you're seeking relief from chronic ailments, striving for peak performance, or simply eager to live a more vibrant life, this podcast is your go-to resource for actionable advice and inspiration. Together, we'll uncover the interconnectedness of nutrition, movement, sleep, stress management, and mindset, empowering you to make informed choices that support your unique health journey. Think of it as quality time with your bestie mixed with a little med school so you're empowered at your next doctor visit. Get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn about your body and how to care for it healthfully. Join me as we embrace vitality, reclaim our innate potential, and discover what it truly means to pursue healthfulness. Hello, my friend, and welcome to another episode of the Healthful Pursuit Podcast. My name is Leanne Vogel. I'm a functional medicine practitioner, holistic nutritionist, and crazy person that just hiked 80 miles in 7 days in Torres Paine in Patagonia. What a journey. I wanted to jump on here and share all of the things from the struggles that I had leading up to it, how happy I am that I persevered, the tools that I used, and my goal here is to encourage you to do hard things because let me tell you, when I was on the struggle bus with the training in preparation for this trip, there were so many individuals that reached out over Instagram telling me that all the struggles that I was experiencing was a sign from God. He was trying to protect me and I needed to give up because he was protecting me from something bad that would happen on my trip. Well, let me tell you, I went on my trip. Nothing bad happened. The only bad thing that happened was that I was hungry. And I think I can handle that for all the awesome things that happened. So my intention here is to encourage you to do hard things and to also remind myself in the future when I listen to this, when I've committed to yet another hard thing, that I can do hard things. And it is such a blessing to do these hard things while I have a body that can do these hard things and commit to it and build grit and determination and yet also not be reckless. And so there's a very different vibe to having an injury, professionals saying, I don't think that this is a good idea. You're going to cause damage, and being like, blah, 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 whatever, I'm going. That never occurred. I was working with 3 different professionals in preparation for this, 4 professionals in preparation for this training, for this event rather. And not one of them said, don't do this. All of them said, you're probably going to be in pain while you do this, but it's not going to do any permanent damage. And that's a big old thumbs up in my book. Let's go. So if you're not familiar with Patagonia, it's a region that is separated between Chile and Argentina, or shared, I guess I would say, between Chile and Argentina. I've been told that the region is about 2,000 kilometers long and about 1,000 kilometers wide. It stretches from one ocean to the next and is shared by both countries. It has glaciers and forests and a steppe. It has deserts and lakes and waterfalls and some of the most unique animals and flora and fauna that I've ever seen in my entire life. Incredible. So a couple of years ago, I started traveling more on my own as my husband has become a pilot and he's traveling himself. And I can either sit at home alone or I can travel alone. And I've decided that life's too short. Mama's going to travel alone. And so when I go on each trip, I wait to connect with somebody on the trip. There's always somebody who I connect with really deeply, and they share their most favorite place that they've traveled, and that becomes my next travel spot. And so I was in Spain in August of 2024, and I was hiking the Sierra Nevada mountains, and there were 2 gentlemen that were hiking with me, and they both said, well, one gentleman said, like, I have hiked in some of the best places, and my favorite place in the entire world was Torres del Paine in Patagonia. I did the W trek. It was incredible. I wish I would have done the O trek. And the other guy was like, I've done the W trek too. I wish I would have done the O trek. I also wish I would have gone in March. And the other guy was like, yeah, me too. March would have been so much better than January. So we talked about it for hours about their experience. And that convinced me that I wanted to do Torres del Paine O trek. So I come home from Spain, I do a little bit of research, and I'm like, let's do it. I mean, I'm physically fit. I just did 30 days hiking. I can totally do this. In hindsight, doing day hikes is very different than a trek where you're committed to walking every day without a break. I've never done that. And the training for that is very different than just a day trek where you just hike and then when you're tired, you stop or you turn around and you go home. This is very different. And so as I got closer and closer to the event, I started realizing that like I needed hiking equipment, I needed layers, I needed training. And so my brother, who is a fantastic coach and trainer, made my endurance program. And it was a lot of walking. And the more I walked, the more pain I was in and the more problems that came up as a result of the walking, specifically the walking. And so I tried to find a physical therapist locally that could help me, and I couldn't find any. I did not find one competent physical therapist in my area. And so I ended up working with a physical therapist in Canada. And so I traveled there to see her a couple of times, and we did like FaceTime stuff so we could just determine how to best support the tendonitis issues that I was having. So initially it was a post-tib issue, and then the flexor hallucis longus was involved, and the calf muscle was involved. We were dealing with plantar fasciitis and just all the intricacies when you start to put on 70 miles a week on your feet. And I wouldn't say that I didn't properly increase my mileage, because I definitely did. There was a 10% increase from September to February. It was nice and slow. The progression was good, but I was walking on cement in training because I'm in South Florida. There are no trails here. I mean, there's one good one. It's an hour and a half away from me. I'm not going to drive 3 hours a day to go hike on a trail when it's boiling hot outside. The temperature here is just not conducive of training for Patagonia, where, we're dealing with 30-degree weather Celsius. I don't think in Fahrenheit. I never will be able to, guaranteed. But South Florida is 30 degrees Celsius per day. Where I was going was 5 to 10. And so my training in Canada definitely did a lot better. But dealing with the heat, which caused blisters and all sorts of issues, and dealing with the cement, which caused a significant amount of tendonitis issues, preparing for the trip was far harder than the trip itself. And so as I got closer and closer to the event, my feet were not improving and my tendonitis issues were only getting worse. But what was improving was my understanding of how to treat the tendonitis issues, how to tape my feet properly, the tools that I needed, like down to the zinc cream I was using between my toes to keep them dry because the heat was just so much. And I did use that significantly. Or needling blisters over and over and over again to create trauma in the blister so it heals quicker. I used that a whole bunch when I was in Torres del Paine, taping my flexor hallucis longus, taping my knees, using compression socks, using silicone toe caps when there's blisters, using wool between the toes and even in the silicone caps, the toe caps, when I experience blisters or any hot spots on the feet. And so without knowing, all of those challenges that I was experiencing in preparation and during the training helped facilitate the experience that I had in Torres del Paine. But I would say like 2 weeks before the trip, the issues became so intense that I texted my physical therapist, Carla, and was like, I'm not entirely sure it's wise that I go. Like, should I be doing this? And I messaged my coach. I messaged my chiropractor, like just all these people. I've been like, are we good? Like, am I being reckless? And all of them said, you're probably going to deal with pain. It's not going to cause permanent damage, but it's probably not going to be the easiest thing. So, a couple of them said like load up on ibuprofen and acetaminophen and just hope for the best. And yeah, that's kind of what I decided is I've put enough time, energy, and money into this that I want to see whether or not I'm even able to do it. And the only way to know whether or not I can do it is to fly to Chile and figure it out as I go. And that's exactly what I did. And when I was sharing this publicly on Instagram, like I said, I had a lot of people message me and say, this is a sign, you shouldn't do it. When doors close like this, it's a good thing to listen to them because God's protecting you from a potential trial that could, really cause damage and all the things. And I didn't listen. And I'm so glad I didn't. There's actually a scripture, James chapter 1, verse 2, dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking, but when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is unsettled, as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything that they do. That's one scripture that really spoke to me of. There was a time when I was struggling with the foot issues where I was using my nutrition brain, my medical knowledge to just fix it. What's the tape? What's the strategy? What do I need? How do I eat? How do I structure this so that I can maintain everything? And the issues only got worse to the point where leading up to that, when I was contacting my physical therapist and all the things, I finally just said, you know what, God, I committed to this and I want to see what we can do. Like, you take the wheel. I'm going to remain faithful in this. I'm going to see this through. I'm going to show up and I'm going to see how you grow me through this. Maybe it's that I can't even do the hike. Maybe I get one day in and the pain is so bad that I have to turn around. But I want to see what we can do. I want to see how you're going to grow me and what could be a huge trial when I'm there or a huge success story when I'm done. And so I got on that plane. I got on that plane with all of my tape and my tools and my drugs, and I just gave it to God. And I knew that I couldn't have trust in the world, though I did have the tools, the structural things to help. I knew at the end of the day, God was either going to take the pain away or let it stay. And so I walked in faith in that, knowing that regardless of how it was going to shake out, it was going to shake out and it was going to grow me. Whether it was a huge challenge or a huge success, both would be a success because I grew. And so February 28th, I got on that plane from Miami to Santiago, Chile, hoping for the best. And we get into Santiago at 9 a.m. and my bag doesn't show up. It's March 1st. My trek starts on March 4th and I don't have any of my equipment. Now you're probably thinking, well, Leanne, why didn't you wear your equipment? Why didn't you have your equipment in your check bag? Why didn't you wear your hiking boots? Well, I was having such tendonitis pain even getting on the plane that my physical therapist recommended I not wear my shoes. I just take like as much time off from walking as possible to just prepare myself. And in my mind, it was more important for me to pack along my food and snacks than it was my equipment, because my thought was, worst case scenario, if all my bags are lost, like my check bag is lost, I have my snacks, which are going to be harder to find than equipment. I can find the equipment and it'll be fine. I did pack my hiking shoes, not my boots, in my carry-on. And I did try to be strategic to the point where if my check bag did get lost, I could potentially do the trek without the stuff in my check bag. But when the check bag didn't show up, I definitely second guessed that whole strategy. But there was an amazing woman at the airport that works for American Airlines. Her name is Fabiola. And I walked up to the desk and I'm like, oh man, I hope you can help me because my bag is gone. I'm supposed to go to Torres, Paine in a couple of days and I don't have any of my equipment. Turns out Fabiola is from Torres, Paine. loves the area so much. And she made it happen. She took down my phone number. She personally made sure that my bag got found and my bag got delivered to Santiago, Chile. And there were 2 days where I didn't have my stuff. I had to go shopping to get underwear because that was one of the non-essential things that I didn't pack in my carry-on. And I started just kind of thinking about whether or not I could do the trek with just the items that I had. And my mom called me. She's like, "Are you actually serious? Like, you're going to try to attempt this, like, with none of the equipment that you tested, and like, you're just going to do that?" Like, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And at that point, when I was sharing this on social media, a lot of people were saying, like, "Again, Leanne, you have the tendonitis issues. You're having, now you don't have a bag. It's a sign. You shouldn't do it." And my response was like, "Okay, so if my bag shows up, is that a sign that I should do it? Like, what? How are we going to allow these signs to dictate what we do or don't do based on commitments that we've made?" Like, in my experience, when something is not meant to happen, it just doesn't happen. And so if I showed up at Torres del Paine and I started hiking and all of a sudden I'm dealing with all this pain and I just don't want to take drugs, or, I've been told that I'm not doing any permanent damage, it's just going to be painful, and I decide I just don't want to be in pain, then if I had broken my toe or my ankle or something happened, then it's like, okay, but like maybe I shouldn't, walk on it because that could, I don't know, cause some joint issue or whatever. I didn't see what I was doing was reckless. I was changing course based on situations that were at hand and making decisions on the fly to achieve the goal. That's what I did. That's what I stuck with. I'm happy with what I did. And I was really thrilled to see my bag. I actually did cry when Fabiola personally delivered my bag, drove from the airport with my bag in her personal car and brought it to my Airbnb. She, like, Fabiola from SCL, American Airlines. If you work for American Airlines and you can somehow figure out how to, like, I don't know, give her a high five for me. I did send her a picture post track to be like, "You made this happen. Thank you, Fabiola." Everyone loves a good giveaway, and it is giveaway time. If your energy crashes halfway throughout the day, you're not lazy. You're probably just depleted. That's why I take Energize from Make Wellness. It's a fast-acting peptide formula that supports energy, motivation, and focus. And the best part, it's clean. No synthetic caffeine spikes, just 100 milligrams of caffeine from whole coffee fruit, plus their balanced energy blend. You're getting amino acids like L-tyrosine and L-leucine to support dopamine and endurance, ginseng peptides to help the body adapt to stress, and natural flavor from blue spirulina and raspberry. I take it mid-morning or pre-workout and I can feel awake, focused, and ready without the crash. If you want to try it, go to healthfulpursuit.com/make to set up a free account. You'll be automatically entered to win a sample of Energize. I pick winners every month and text you directly if it's you. One more time, it's healthfulpursuit.com/make. Go create your account now and get ready to feel the shift. And so my stuff shows up. I organize everything. I have to get on another plane from Santiago in Chile to Puerto Natales, which is basically at the base of the region that I was going to hike in. And you better believe I wore so much of my hiking equipment. I was wearing 6 layers of clothing and I was wearing my hiking boots, and I had so much in my carry-on luggage. My check bag did show up, but really the only thing that was in there was snacks I had purchased in Santiago to bring home with me, and my trekking poles and my sleeping bag. So I show up at Puerto Natales. I got in around like 1:00, and the trek started the next day. So with the trek, I decided that because this was my first time trekking and my first time like camping over and in this area, and during my Azores hike in September of 2024, I definitely felt lonely on a lot of my hikes, and I didn't love the loneliness. I decided to sign up for a group trek, which I thought would be less lonely. I would have less responsibilities. It also came with porter services, meaning I didn't have to carry my sleeping bag and my sleeping mat and my pillow and my extra clothes. I just had to carry my day pack, which I I was lazy when it came to the training, like the bag training. In my program, it was that I should be training with like a 10-pound rucksack, and I should be putting all my equipment in my backpack twice a week and walking with that backpack. And I didn't do that. And I mean, it all worked out in the end, but man, those first couple of days carrying a 30-pound bag on my back when I wasn't used to it wasn't the best. But we made it. We made it. So the group situation, there were a lot of benefits. Like we never ran out of things to talk about. I have somewhat of a more challenging time connecting with people for a short period of time and as deeply as you do on a trip like that. And then knowing that the likelihood of ever seeing them again is so slim. So you invest so much time, energy, and just, yeah, so much into it. And you know that they will be a part of your memory and your experience, and you will be a part of theirs, but they're not significant in the time of your life. I've always had a hard time with those sorts of individuals, like in those experiences. I would rather invest time in somebody that I can get to know and then continue to know. You know what I'm saying? And so my experience with the group is I got to know everyone very, very well. And I felt like I connected with them very, very much. But when it came to the end of the trek, there was no exchanging of numbers or like, let's stay in touch, because that's like inauthentic, because you're just not gonna. And so why would you say that if you're not going to follow through? And in hindsight, like the amount of times that I stayed up later or like didn't do the things that I wanted to do because I wanted to be with the group, or I felt obligated to be with the group, was very, very high. And I wonder what the trek would have been like had I done it alone, because I was talking with people so much and getting to know them and they me. I didn't get to spend a lot of time in prayer and like with solo time, which I do really, really enjoy when I'm hiking. And I think I would have really enjoyed on this trek. And that part and that experience was missing out of this. But, you know, the way that the trek was structured was 8 days of hiking, no breaks, anywhere. They said anywhere between 4 to 8 hours of hiking a day, but it was a pretty consistent 8 hours a day, like 8 to 10 hours a day. And so on day one, when we got to camp, the Saron camp, which is the first night of the O trek, everyone changed into their sandals. And so I changed into my sandals because I had them, because it was in the list and it said like change into your sandals because you don't want to be walking around camp with the boots that you're in because it will be uncomfortable and blah, blah, blah. So I changed to my sandals, and that was probably the worst idea I made on the trip, because my feet got so cold at dinner and they just didn't warm up. Like all through the night, I couldn't sleep because my feet were so cold. And so by the end of day 2, I had a massive fever. Your girl was running hot. And my fever didn't break until day 6. So I had a fever from day 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did 5 days of the hike, like totally sick. And that was it. It was disappointing, to be honest. Right before I left, I started panicking that I was going to Patagonia or South America, a place where they eat a lot of peanuts as snacks. And I was relying on a group of people I didn't know to provide food for me. And there was a lot of concern over that. And so I purchased 4 EpiPens, a bronchial inhaler, like all these drugs so that I could get myself out of anaphylactic shock if I were to be exposed to peanuts. Being that secluded, I knew that if something were to happen, I would totally be on my own. And so the day before I left, I went to the pharmacy to pick up one last medication, and I just got this feeling that I needed Dayquil and NyQuil, like super extra strength capsules. I can't tell you the last time I used this product. I was probably 13, like we're talking decades ago. But as I walked by it, I was like, I'm just going to get some of this just in case. I am so thankful that I had that, because let me tell you, day 2 to 6, I was high on Dayquil, and I am not ashamed to say it. I would not have gotten through the trek without that Dayquil. And every night I popped some NyQuil, slept like a baby, and woke up with a fever again. So I remember walking to Dixon Camp. This was also the day that I got the epic blister that one of the tour guides checked out, and she said it was a callus. And I was like, how do you go from nothing to a callus? Normally it's nothing, blister, callus. And so how did it go directly to a callus? So she taped it up like a callus. Oh man, was that painful. Like that was painful. I showed up at Dixon day 2 with a fever, feeling absolutely terrible, with a blister, hungry, no tendon pain. Okay. But there was a special place in my brain that I was going and it wasn't good. Like I was miserable. I can't even tell you what I saw on that hike because I hated every minute of it. And I was just like, this is dumb. I want to go home. And I made a specific, I don't even know if it was a choice. It was more like a mandatory situation that happened where I realized they're not feeding me enough because they said that they could accommodate my allergies and they could not. So I'm lacking food. I have a fever. I'm concerned about the tendon issue. I have this stupid callus that is so painful. I'm sick as a dog. I can either choose to stay in this place where everything is wrong and these next 6 days are going to totally suck, or I can just not think about these 5 things. That's what I did. In that moment, I was like, nope, not doing it. And I will tell, this was absolutely God because this was not a conscious thought situation. It just clicked and happened. And I went to a place where everything was good, even though there was really nothing that was good. And my sleep was being affected because I was sick. And we were walking for forever. And I could have gone to just a terrible place where this was the worst ever. And I just didn't. And yeah, I don't know if I've ever, like marathon training and all that, I don't think that there have been so many things up against my experience that I had to go to that place. But I definitely know that I can now. And there was definitely anxiety the first couple of days that my tendon issues were going to act up. But let me tell you, friend, from the moment I started walking from base camp to seeing base camp again, I did not have one bit of tendonitis pain. Like I will remind you, every single walk more than 5 minutes. In fact, the day I landed in Puerto Natales, I was wearing my hiking boots, as I mentioned, in the airport. When I got out of the airport and I got checked into my hotel for the night before the trek, I went for a 15-minute walk and my tendon pain was so intense the day before the trek that I was like, oh dear God, this is going to be bad. And when I started the trek the next day, I had no pain. And day 2, no pain. Day 3, no pain. The pain did not come back until I saw base camp. So the last hike day was 10 miles and it ended up being 9 hours of walking. And it was a special moment when I saw base camp in, the background. We had like another 2 hours to go. I could see the tents and I started crying, and my faith in God I saw it so clearly. I was so happy that I committed to this, that I followed through on this, and I allowed God to just work through it. And he chose to keep that pain away. He gave me pain in other ways, hungry, flu, not sleeping well, like all those things. But the tendon pain was held back, and I cried. I cried when I saw it. I was so thrilled. I saw how deeply I pushed myself through this. I saw God's care in just the amount of pain that I was in the days before leading up to the trek. How I had that switch where I was like, wait, I can't use my medical brain to fix this. I need to rely on God. And even the night before going for that walk and being in pain and being like, God, you gotta do something awesome here. Cause I can't do any more. This is all up to you. So the next morning, the group woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I told the guides, like, I am very tired today. I could really go for a rest day. I'm not entirely sure how my body is going to handle this, but I'm going to attempt it. We'll see how it goes. And I got an hour and a half in from base camp up to the towers, and the tendon issue flared up. And I was like, it's not worth it. It's the last day. I can turn around, go back to base camp and meet the group later. It's not worth the pain, and I'm exhausted. It's just not worth it. I was really, really disappointed in myself when the guide came down and, talked to me. I was just crying. I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so disappointed. I trained so hard for this. I was so wrecked over the fact that I was making the decision not to continue on. And it's not like continuing on would have been reckless, but my fever had just broken the day before. I had been high on Dayquil the whole week without a rest day, just recovered. I was so hungry. We haven't even talked about the food situation yet in full. And I just decided in that moment, it's not worth it. I experienced all that I needed to experience when I saw base camp the day before, and I had this swelling, overwhelming feeling that I had achieved what I set out to achieve. I didn't need to walk anymore. And it was not about the walking, really. It was about the struggle that led me to experience what I experienced. And I knew that I had experienced all that I needed to on that experience. And people have asked, like, how was it? Like, would you do it again? Absolutely not. Nope. It was the most incredible thing I've ever physically done. And I never have to do anything like that ever again. Like, I think I could do a trek on my own if it was like, walk for a day, take a day off, walk for another day, see how you feel. If you want to do another day, do that, and sleep and tent. And I could totally do that. But no, I have no interest in hiking every day for 8 days and covering 80 miles. No, thank you. The day by day kind of view of things and the things that I saw and just all of that was incredible. Day one, walking to Saron, I definitely had concerns that, oh my gosh, this is going to look exactly like Canada. What did I sign up for? I could have saved thousands of dollars and just gone home and gone to the mountains. So the EcoCamp to Saron camp, I was not like overly impressed by what I was seeing. We did see a couple of birds and birds feeding their young. That was pretty cool, but I wasn't totally convinced this was like the best idea ever. The walk from Saron to Dixon, yeah, I was sick for that. So it was a little bit blurry, but I did enjoy the landscape a lot more. It started getting very wooded, and the camp at Dixon was in this valley, and it was just that was my favorite camp by far. It was also my favorite dinner that we had. It was like mashed potatoes with meats, and there was just so much of it. But by that time I was sick, and it was pretty bad. Dixon to Paros, that was a difficult hike because my foot was really, really hurting by that point with the blister/callus situation. And I'm so thankful that night the guide told me to just leave it alone. And intuitively, I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to take my medical needle. I'm going to sterilize it, and I'm going to poke so many holes in that blister and cause trauma in my foot, not just pop the blister, but cause trauma in the foot. So overnight, my body will like send all resources and heal this baby. I'm so thankful I listened to my gut on that, because the next day the blister was totally fine and I dealt with no more pain. But the walk from Dixon to Paros was one of my most favorites because it was so diverse. It was so wooded. There were ups and downs all day. It was an incredible walk. Paros to Gray was the most intense hike that I've ever been on in my entire life. It was 6 or 7 hours of incline, a lot of boulders, and there was snow at the peak. There was a significant amount of wind. I did bring trekking poles with me. However, I hate trekking poles. I can say that. I've hiked enough to know that I just hate them. And this trek, I thought, I'll bring them. I'll probably use them because of the wind. Nah, I did not need them. Everyone says, you're not using them correctly if you hate them. Let me tell you, I use them correctly. I just don't like them. And so I did use them a little bit that day because the wind was really epic, but I didn't find that it helped. But when we got to the top, you can see Dixon Glacier, and that was so incredible. I was on a significant amount of Dayquil that day because it was the most sick that I woke up just feeling like absolute death. I haven't been that sick in I don't even know how long. And walking that much did not help the situation. But the night before in Peros camp, this is a very, very, very secluded camp. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like it's rough. It is rough. And so the group got asparagus soup packets for dinner that was 40 calories. And then this like chicken tomato soup situation that was probably another 200. And we were just about to embark on a 12-hour hike the next day. But because of my allergies, they made me some lentil soup, which was so, so welcomed. I mean, it wasn't enough food had I not been sick, but it was so perfect and warm and fibrous and wonderful. The Peros to Gray Camp walk was so epic. Yet when you get to Gray Camp, it's now part of the W Trek, which a lot of people do. And so you go from this secluded, no power, very rough camp one night to you show up at Gray Camp and there's like TVs and bars and music. And it's like, sorry, what? I can't even understand this. And my tent at Gray Camp was on this hill. And every time I got out of my tent to pee, I like fell down the hill every time, like all 4 times, because of course, when you're sleeping in a tent, your bladder's like, I know this. I need to make your life difficult and you need to pee 4 times in the night, even though you never pee that much in the night. But when you're sleeping in a tent, all of a sudden you need to pee every hour. What's up with that? So the Great Camp was fun. Paine Grande Camp. I don't even remember what that camp looked like. Let me see. Oh yeah, Paine Grande Camp was incredible. I really liked the vibe there. I ended up, because I found power this day, because up until then, the power situation and charging, your phone and massage gun that you bring from home. Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. And regret no things. There was unlimited power there. So I shared my massage gun with like everybody and made a ton of friends. And it was really, really fun. This was the day that I started feeling better and realizing just how much I needed food. Let's talk about electrolytes, because if you're sweating, fasting, or living that low carb life, you need to replace what you're losing. I've been using Element for years, but I also want to be real with you. Some of you have messaged me about the past controversy involving Element and their ingredient list, specifically maltodextrin. Here's what's up. A while back, independent testing found that Element stick packs had trace amounts of maltodextrin, despite the label saying otherwise. Element responded, updating their process and clarified where it was coming from. That ingredient isn't in their unflavored stick packs or their sparkling electrolyte drinks, which are my personal go-to. No sugar, no crazy stuff, just clean hydration. So if you've been unsure about trying Element or coming back to it, start with what's cleanest, the unflavored stick packs or the fizzy cans. They're awesome and you can feel good about what you're putting in your body. I specifically like the fizzy cans because you can add lemon juice to it and it's just next level. Go to drinklmnt.com/KDP for a free sample pack with any order. And remember, it's backed by a no questions asked refund policy, so you can feel confident giving it a try. So let's talk about the food, and then we can continue on with the hike, because I booked my trek with a company called Swoop Patagonia. And the reason I booked with Swoop Patagonia is because they said that they could coordinate all the food and it would be up to standard. Like I would get enough. And I told them about my allergies. They said it was no big deal. They said EcoCamp, the people doing the tour, would prepare my meals and send it to me no matter where I was in the O-Trek, which in hindsight, that makes no stinking sense. You're like 40 miles away from civilization. Who's going to bring you your food? Like that doesn't even make any sense. And so the reason I chose the group tour is because when I contacted the various shelters that are at each of these camps, and I said, I'm allergic to gluten and dairy, I cannot have any peanuts or contact with peanuts. Can you provide food for me? They all said, absolutely not. No, we cannot. Well, it turns out that that's the food I was eating. There was no food prepared for me separately or people that knew about it. No, Like, so the morning of the hike, I was given a box of gluten-free cookies for breakfast. And the first breakfast we had camping, I had a rice cake and a quarter of a piece of avocado. That was breakfast. So the food situation was a massive problem. And I say this openly because I'm kind of disappointed. I'm fresh from my trip. I just got back yesterday. I have not had a chance to reach out to Swoop Patagonia. I am so disappointed in the food situation. The guides did their very best. Ian and Theo were incredible guides with EcoCamp. I would recommend them to anyone. I enjoyed my stay at EcoCamp when we got back, which was the base camp. The food there is incredible. If I could do Patagonia again or Torres del Paine again, I would just stay at EcoCamp and do day hikes because EcoCamp was incredible. And I recommend that everyone go to EcoCamp at least once in their life. It's at the base of Torres del Paine. It's incredible. It's incredible, incredible. But Swoop Patagonia lied to me. And the food situation was a massive situation. So thankfully, at some of the camps, there were things like chips and Skittles. And I bought a lot of chips and Skittles. I did bring snacks for myself, but not enough for the amount of food that I needed to walk. Like, there was one night where I had a bowl of black beans for dinner because everything else had gluten and or dairy. And most breakfasts was a fruit cup because everything else had dairy in it, or they were serving gluten-free bread. It was not okay. I did fine. It worked out in the end. But come day 5 and Paine Grande, I realized like how stinking hungry I was. And yeah, I was hungry. I was really, really hungry. And so I lost 6 pounds on the trip, which over that short of a period of time is like, that just tells you how little I was eating, even though I was trying my best. I mean, I ate 3 bags of Skittles most days to just get enough sustenance. And I mean, I wouldn't call that sustenance, like pure sugar. I basically finished Torres del Paine with diabetes. I'm kidding, but I never want to eat another Skittle. Thank you very much. Even the thought of it is just not okay. Then we went from Paine Grande to Francis Camp, and we left Paine Grande like pretty early, and we really got started. It wasn't too hard of a hike. There were a lot of ups and downs. I would say that it definitely didn't surprise me as much as the gray camp to Paine Grande. I was not expecting to be like scaling walls and climbing up like pretty significant rock formations or rock walls like fresh off the hike. So I wasn't totally prepared for that. But getting to Francis Camp was really beautiful, and Francis Camp was really well done. And this was one of the locations where the tents were actually up like high on stilts, and that was so comfortable. I really, really enjoyed that a lot. It made for a colder night, but it was definitely a lot more comfortable with a lot more space. The view from the top before we went down to Francis Camp was incredible. It was like there was mountainous range on one side, lakes on the other side, and then behind you was this ginormous glacier that you could see was melting from all sides and just waterfalls everywhere. This was one of the hikes that I was pretty nervous about because it was one of the most epic inclines, and I handled it like a champ. In fact, in most places, I was like running down the hill, playing catch up with the guide, and it was totally okay. And then Francis Camp back to base camp. That was a more mild hike, but it was strenuous. And totally forgot to mention on day 4, out of absolutely nowhere, I'm sick. It's been like the longest hike ever, so hard. We get in, I'm exhausted. I get my period on day 19. What's up with that? Like I can't tell you the last time my period came on not to day 29. Like I have a 28-day cycle. And I think it's because I was on so many drugs. I was under eating. My body was like, what is actually happening right now? Here's your period. And I had no warning signs. It was just like one moment I'm sleeping in my tent, and the next moment I'm waking up like, oh my goodness, I'm in a sleeping bag. This is really bad. It was not okay. It was not planned at all. And there were no tools. There were no tools to support me. And so that was a mess, literally, figuratively, a total absolute disaster. But we made it through. We made it through. Miraculously, that occurred. And I learned nothing from that other than when you don't eat enough and you're sick and high on Dayquil and NyQuil, things happen with your hormones that you may not expect. I'm not, I haven't really totally thought about the fact that because I was on the Dayquil, NyQuil, it's probably that it helped some of the tendon pain, but I didn't experience any of it. That was not the struggle. Like, it's funny. In preparation for the trip, my eyes were totally on tendon pain. And it ended up being that the problems that came up had nothing to do with the things that I had prepared for. Of course, the tools of like the K tape that I had and all the taping strategies and preparation and all of that worked out really, really well. Another area that I wasn't totally prepared for was the sock situation. So in all my research, and I did a significant amount of research on all my equipment and everything, a lot of it was secondhand, and I did a lot of research. The socks that I chose were in GG socks with a liner and like a wool top layer. And everyone said this is what they used in Patagonia. Let me tell you, my feet the first day were on fire. It was so hot in my boot. Like, there ain't no way you can walk in Patagonia with those, like maybe in the winter, perhaps, but absolutely not. So I ended up wearing my gym socks over top of the liner because it's all that I had. And I only had one pair. So I wore the same top socks the entire trip. That was disgusting. I was wearing a liner as a base and I changed out the liner every other day. But yeah, the sock situation was a struggle. The sleeping bag worked out really good once I didn't wear my sandals at camp. I just wore my boots the rest of the time, and I would never suggest that you change out of your boots. Just keep your feet warm. That's number one, and I know that that's why I got sick. Had my feet been warm that first night, there's no way that I would have got sick. My layers worked out really, really well. I used merino wool base, which I loved. My Echo hoodie from Outdoor Research was essential. Then I had an R1 fleece by Patagonia, followed by the puff hoodie from Patagonia. And then I had my Patagonia Torrent shell, rain and windbreaker, as well as my North Face rain and windbreaker pants. I didn't use the rain windbreaker pants. It was like one day that I used it when it was really raining. But other than that, the weather was just perfect, like incredible. Couldn't have asked for better weather, truly. And for my pants, I mostly wore my Patagonia pants. I've had them for quite some time. I love those things. I also bought a new pair of Outdoor Research wind tights. I used them like once. The whole period situation just changed the way I had to do pants. And so I found a situation that worked and I just stuck with my Patagonia pants and those worked out really, really well. But I probably would have worn the wind pants had I not had my period. And they were really, really great. The thing I didn't love about the wind tights is that they couldn't be taken on and off easily. And there were a couple days where I had to wear a merino wool tight underneath my pants and I couldn't do that on the wind, like the wind tights easily. There were a couple of days where I had to change like pretty much in front of the group because like you think Patagonia, there's going to be like a lot of wooded areas, but most of the hiking was pretty open. There weren't a lot of places to escape the group to go to the bathroom or change or any of that. So there was definitely everybody look away. Not a lot of people look away. Nothing you haven't seen before, but I got to take these tights off and they got to come off. And so I think if I could have found pants that could be taken on and off with my boots on, that probably would have been beneficial because taking the boots on and off was just a pain. And my feet got wet one day because I lost my balance and stepped on the ground. But overall, my equipment worked really, really well. I was very happy that I brought my I purchased a new alarm clock, and I love that I had that because it told me the temperature also in the tent, and that was helpful for just preparing for the day and understanding what the temperature was, and I could set my alarm easily. I didn't use the alarm ever because I kept waking up all the time to pee, and I was sick, and I definitely slept better with the NyQuil than I would have slept without the NyQuil rather, but my sleep definitely wasn't ideal. My Aura ring basically told me I was dying the entire trip. It was like, you might die. No, it didn't actually tell me that, but it's like, today should be a rest day. And I'm like, absolutely not. We're hiking 12 hours today. So let's do that thing. Yeah. But overall, it was interesting. Even though I was pretty darn sick, my HRV got up to 120 throughout the trek, which I found to be very fascinating because my HRV is never 120. And I truly think it's because the only things I was really thinking about, sorry, I'm tired and I'm losing my voice. The only things that I was thinking about on a daily basis were, do I have enough water? Where am I going to get my food? How long are we walking? And yeah, that's all. Where are the drugs? Like, that's all I was thinking about. It wasn't anything else. It was so simple. We really got down to basics: food, shelter, water, food, shelter, water, food, shelter, water. And though they are such big essentials, man, did it feel good on the nervous system. As sick as I was, it felt incredible on the nervous system. And I don't know the last time I've been able to do that. And I need to do that more. Not on a multi-day trek. Absolutely not. But in some way, shape, or form. I didn't bring my laptop with me at all during the 3-week trip. So after I was done with the trek, I went to El Calafate and hung out for about a week there and did kayaking and day hikes and that kind of thing. In hindsight, I would have loved to rent a car and take that car to El Chalten for the day and maybe even an overnight in Ushuaia. I wish I would have done that, but it was like too late to coordinate properly just with things I had already committed to and stuff. I wish I would have done that. I know that I'll be back to Patagonia because I ate the Calafate berry, like in Torres del Paine. And they say that if you eat it, then you'll come back. So I know I'm going back, but I also know I'm going back because I really want to go back. And I think on that trip, it would be really nice to do a road trip, even from Buenos Aires all the way down. I think it's like 3,000 kilometers. It would be just unreal to see the entire landscape. The Highway 40 goes through there, and I've heard from many people locally that it is incredible. The Chilean and Argentinian people are some of the nicest people that I've ever interacted with ever. They just go out of their way to make sure that you are comfortable and taken care of. And connecting with them in not their language was special. I couldn't imagine knowing Spanish and connecting with them more fully, like in their language, that it really encouraged me to learn Spanish. I really need to learn Spanish. And the people definitely made it. The food was a challenge throughout the trek. And even, in Santiago was a little bit easier. El Calafate, there wasn't much options, but I definitely made it work. I think just about the only place in the world where food is never an issue, and I love it so much, is Italy. And I think that's why I love going to Italy so much, because it's just like such a treat to be able to eat all the gluten-free, dairy-free things, and they're so accustomed to the allergies. But I didn't go to Patagonia to eat. I went to Patagonia to see Patagonia, and I definitely achieved that. I got to see icebergs and glaciers that I've never seen before. I got a taste of nature and the depth of nature and community with nature that I've not had ever. And growing up in nature, this was definitely a more intimate experience than I've had in the past. And I learned so much about trials and relying on the Lord through this process. And like I said, I know when I saw base camp again, I knew that what God had set out to achieve in me through this process was achieved then. And so I feel very satisfied, though I was very disappointed in my body the next day for not allowing me to do the towers. The towers is a hike that you can come back to at any time. It's a day hike. And so I hope that I get to do it one day, but I know that I didn't enjoy my endurance training whatsoever. I don't enjoy endurance really at all. And I am so thankful. I went to the gym today and I did a strength day, and I'm just so thankful that I get to go back to the gym and do strength because it just feels so much better in my body. But I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I got to experience Patagonia. I had a beautiful introduction to a wonderful region that I think will be a place that I go to often. March is a wonderful time to go. The weather was unbelievable and I can't wait to go back. So I hope that something that I shared in there was an encouragement to you. It has not been an easy process. I have my life back, truly. My training was taking like up to 10 hours a day with some of the long walks that I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself now. I definitely stretched myself so much and I'm thankful for it. These trips force me to grow and they also encourage me to enjoy my life at home so much more. I was so thankful to come home and so thankful for simplicity. And sometimes you need that fresh perspective to appreciate what you have right now. And so these trips always teach me that. So I hope that was helpful. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you back here next week for another episode. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Healthful Pursuit Podcast. Join us next Tuesday for another episode of the show. If you're looking for free resources, there are a couple of places you can go. The first to my blog, healthfulpursuit.com, where you're going to find loads of recipes. The second is a free parasite protocol that I've put together for you that outlines symptoms, testing, and resources to determine whether or not you have a parasite, plus a full protocol to follow to eradicate them from your life if you need to. That's available at healthfulpursuit.com/parasites. And last but certainly not least, a full list of blood work markers to ask your doctor for so that you can get a full picture of your health. You can grab that free resource by going to healthfulpursuit.com/labs. The Healthful Pursuit Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Healthful Pursuit Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified health practitioner with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.